Like and subscribe right now, or this spider will crawl on your face while you're sleeping.
People like coming to Reddit for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's to learn new skills. Other times it's to connect with other similar-minded individuals. And oftentimes it's to read up about the strange and unusual. So it's a good thing that there's no shortage of mysterious posts that will keep you up at night, isn't it? If you too like to read up on weird stuff in your spare time, I've done all the tedious work for you and put it all together. If your interest has been piqued, then wait and look no further. Let us get into the top 10 mysterious stories found on Reddit. Number 10. The Man in the Road. The user states that this took place during his junior year of high school. He and his friend were heading out to a classmate's barn to work on their parade float. On this day, they were about a mile away when they chanced upon a fire truck, an ambulance, and many police cars blocking the road. There was a wreck on the bridge, and the traffic was being diverted elsewhere. When he and his friends were heading home after finishing things up on the float, they pulled up to the bridge, slowed down, and stopped to check out the wreck site. They sat in the car for a few moments, observing the mangled guardrail, and looked in the side mirror to make sure no cars were coming. The coast was clear. He looked forward, then back in the mirror. It was then he saw a man by the tailgate, illuminated in red by the tail lights. He slammed his foot on the gas, but the car wasn't moving. Then they heard a loud bang on the driver's side of the car. He sped off, not slowing down one bit. When he got back home and got out to grab his bag from the back, he noticed a large dent on the driver's side where the man had been standing. To this day, he still has no idea who the man was and why his car was hit.
Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and you'll get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it. It really works.
Number 9. Frozen in Time. This cop was driving and found a girl standing in the middle of the road. He thought to tell her to pay attention, but it was clear that something was wrong. During his whole time with her, she never uttered a word. She had done nothing, but clearly needed help, even though something seemed wrong medically. As he was weighing his options, the girl suddenly started spinning. Then she lost her balance and fell, whacking her head on the side of the police car. So he called an ambulance, but she seemed fine. Still not talking, but she was looking at the sky. He did some writing and looked back at her and realized she was trying to damage her retinas by forcing herself to look directly at the sun. He held up a book above her to shield her eyes. The ambulance arrived and they got to the hospital, but now she seemed to have forgotten how to walk. The officer was now certain that she was trolling him, but he got her a wheelchair anyway. In the wheelchair, she struck up her hands and kept this up for the next hour. No movement, just frozen with her arms out. He was now convinced something was utterly wrong. Either she was pretending to be frozen in time, was suffering from a mental health issue, or she had been possessed. By now he's convinced it's the latter, but he decided to leave her with the professionals. A week later, he called the hospital, and they told him she was still frozen. Number 8. Missing Persons Case. This is the tale of Kevin Williams. A user on Reddit says the first time he had heard of him was when a flyer was posted on the door of his apartment in Jacksonville when Kevin went missing. He had been following the case ever since. On May 28, 2013, Kevin and his wife had an argument at the Avenues Mall in Jacksonville. He left his wife at the mall, left his car, and walked to a convenience store. He used his ATM card at the store and then went to a building on Sunbeam Road. That was the last he was seen. He was listed as AWOL from the Navy, and his family created a Facebook page to help find him. In July of 2015, during the search for missing person Lonzie Barton, police found 2 adult bodies in ponds. One of them was Kevin Williams. His body was found less than a mile from the mall and about 2 miles from the apartment complex. But why was he killed, and who killed him? Number 7. The U.S. Forest Service Rescue Officer. This tale is about when a U.S. Forest Service rescue officer was involved in the search for a woman who'd gotten separated from her hiking group. She was found late at night curled up under a large log, missing her shoe and backpack, and was clearly in shock. They were able to get her to walk with them back to base. The entire time she kept looking behind and asking why that big man with black eyes was following them. They saw no one, so they paid no heed. But the closer they got to base, the more agitated she got. She kept asking the officer to tell the man to stop making faces at her. At one point, she stopped, turned around, and started yelling into the forest. When they finally got her to keep moving, they started hearing these weird noises. When they were within sight of base ops, the woman turned to him with her eyes wide open, touched his shoulder and said, "He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck." This officer had a very small scar on the base of his neck, but it was mostly hidden underneath his collar, and he had no idea how she saw it. Right after she said that, he heard that weird sound in his ear and freaked out. He hurriedly rushed her inside and was elated when he left later that night. Number 6. The Doctor. This was a story posted by Reddit user Dr. Bazio. He works as a doctor in a hospital in the UK and was on a night shift that was eerily silent. Some of the nurses were sitting around telling the story. A young doctor was running to a crash call. The hospital is constructed in a giant L shape with the front entrance at the bend. A woman stopped the doctor and asked him which way the exit was. He directed her and kept running. When he got to the patient, it was the woman who had asked him for directions. She had died. It was caught on closed-circuit television as well, showing the doctor stopped running midway down the hallway and gestured toward the exit while saying something to no one in particular. Number 5. The story of the humanoid stalker. This user was driving to a park to go hiking in the night in the mountains, and he hadn't even turned off his car when he began to feel like he was being watched. There weren't any cars around, so he thought perhaps it was just him being paranoid. Without knowing why, he looked to his right and saw this weird-looking humanoid shape on top of the little bump hill about 50 feet away. At first he thought it was a weirdly shaped tree until he saw the arms move. So now he was certain that there was a person staring at his car, trying not to move. He felt as though they were waiting for him to get out of his car and leave to a more secluded area, as he was next to the road. He immediately turned his car back around and does not go hiking at night in that park anymore. Number 4. The fire alarm. This person says that back in 2018 they went to bed and in mid-dream everything stopped and a voice said, "The fire alarm is about to go off." They woke up 5 minutes later when the fire alarm rang in their building. The next day he asked his roommates if anyone said that, but they said the alarm went off around 4 a.m. and they were all sleeping prior to it going off. Plus, none of them knew they were testing the alarm beforehand, and he freaked out afterwards. Number 3. The fall. This community member was 16 and riding horses with her friends in the field beside her house. The horse threw her and she hit her head, hard. The next thing she knows, she's on her back in terrible pain, staring up at her friend who is agitatedly screaming. Dazed, her gaze shifts and then refocuses behind her friend, a tall, thin man wearing a black suit and a hat. He was staring into her eyes over her friend's shoulder. Days later, she came to visit her in the hospital, and she asked about the man she'd seen. She told her there was no one there but her. And with that, it is now time for today's subscriber pick. Today's photo was sent to us by a subscriber. If you come across a photo online and want to know more details about it, just send it over to us. We might even feature it on future videos. Number 2. This picture seems to show a bloody nun in bed, but no real backstory can be found. Number 1. The disappearing child. When this narrator was 7, she awoke in the middle of the night to a young child kneeling near her bed praying. At first, she thought it was her younger brother, so she asked him what he was doing. He slowly looked at her, stood up, and started running. So she hopped out of bed and followed him down the stairs and out the front door. She followed him all the way to the end of the driveway, and then he simply vanished. And that concludes our list of top 10 mysterious stories found on Reddit. Let us know in the comment section below which one of these made you uncomfortable. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon.